Here to talk more about this and the latest COVID news is internist at Northwell Health, Dr. Frank Cantasessa. Dr. Frank, thank you so much for joining us. Happy New Year. How did you celebrate the new year?
I was actually visiting some family down south in North Carolina. It's a nice way to ring in the new year. I think we're going to see some better things going forward this year. Omicron, is a little bit confusing for a lot of people. The guidelines from the CDC have been a little bit confusing for a lot of people, but the explosion of cases that we're seeing, along with the mild symptoms and the enormous transmissibility of it, are going to lead to herd immunity hopefully very soon. So I think we're heading towards some good things this year.
Yeah, let's talk about those cases, right? So New York State rang in the new year with another single day positive case record at 85,000. So we're seeing this in a lot of cities, but as you mentioned, this could maybe be a good thing, you think, because of herd immunity?
I do think so. If you were going to sit down and design a natural booster shot, it would look something like Omicron. Easy to spread, mild symptoms, so causing really, very little damage and serious illness, and providing immunity. And we're also finding, interestingly enough, that Omicron is showing immunity towards people who've been infected with Omicron are showing immunity towards Delta. So it's sweeping the more severe Delta variant pretty much off the map very quickly. So if you've had Omicron, you're not going to get Delta. And that's a really good thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I think people were confused if they, had the Delta, can they get Omicron or vice versa? And something too, because I had it, I got tested, it came back positive, but are people being told if they have Omicron or if they have the Delta? Like, how do they know and how are they tracking this?
So it can be a little bit confusing. So the tracking is hard because, a lot of people are being diagnosed with home kits. And the home kits, they're okay. They're not terribly reliable. Plus, you can get a positive result on a home test if you have certain strains of a common cold, because a lot of common colds are caused by coronaviruses. So you might get a positive test for a common cold and say, hey, I have COVID, but that might not be so. Yeah. Right now, in this time that we're living in, if you have common cold symptoms, there's a pretty good chance that you have Omicron. If you've had Delta or one of the prior strains, you could get Omicron, but it would almost always have a very mild case. So shouldn't be any panic going forward.
Right. No, you're right. How are doctors and medical staff handling these surges? And do you think they're preparing for numbers to get worse in the coming days because we did just have Christmas and New Year's?
I think it is going to get worse. Worse as far as case numbers. Now, let's not confuse case numbers with hospitalizations and deaths. The case numbers are exploding, and they will probably continue to explode. However, if we look at the South Africa data, they've already kind of peaked and are on the downswing already within, a matter of a month. We were only talking about Omicron really since around Thanksgiving time. So as we head into the new year, I think we'll see a peak, hopefully within the next week or two. And then we'll start to see a downswing as they did in South Africa, and that's a good thing also.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because you hear an increase in cases, but what we should really be looking at is hospitalization rates. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has announced that students at SUNY schools, they must be boosted upon their arrival. What's the science behind these booster mandates? What do you think?
Well, the truth is there isn't a lot of science behind it. You're talking about a very low-risk population here. Young people in general have a close to zero chance of dying of COVID. So the science behind it, I don't think there is much. I would not be pushing boosters in this population. And there's more and more data to suggest that the risk-benefit ratio doesn't really show that we should be pushing these vaccines. There are adverse events that happen with these vaccines. So you're not talking about protecting a high-risk population from a potentially serious illness like you are with older people and at-risk populations. You're talking about the healthiest among us.
Right.
And I really would not be pushing the boosters in that population.
Well, maybe the governor should be listening to you because I think a lot of parents agree with you. Thank you so much, Dr. Frank Cantasessa. We appreciate it, and Happy New Year to you, sir.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much.
Of course.